He'd be better. Anyway. Actually, he's speaking, so he'd be better here.
Don Scott.
This matter before you is a request to issue a restoration order against a land use violation in the town of Lincoln. And the owner of the lands, Bob and Star Mackie, have operated an archery business since 2002, and it's grown since that time. The Niagara Escarpment Commission staff became aware of it, I believe, in 2005. Previous attempts to resolve the issue included the application for a development permit to see if it could be issued under the Niagara Escarpment plan. The result was that the development did not fit the Niagara Escarpment plan. The Niagara Escarpment Commission denied the permit. The applicant appealed that decision, and the hearing officer confirmed the Niagara Escarpment Commission's decision. Since that time, efforts have been made to seek voluntary compliance, to cease the activity on the property. That hasn't worked, and we have worked our way to this stage where the next logical step for enforcement of the Niagara Escarpment Commission's regulations is to pursue a restoration order. And I think a lot of other things will have to be said about this, but I think those are the bare facts that the Commission should be aware of.
Thank you, Mr. Mackie. Could you come forward? I note here that you're going to make a brief presentation.
Yes.
And be available for questions. So you know the history of this. Perhaps you could provide some new information. Pardon?
I've lived it.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say to the Commission?
Just basically, before last time I stood in front of this Commission, I was naive, uninformed, and unprepared. I since found that I'm a good citizen. I've tried to comply with the request by filling out this development permit application. Never been put through the ringer like this before. I tried to do what I could to satisfy this Commission, but from my very first meeting with this group of people, I realized that your mind was made up before I even walked through the door. For whatever reason, I still don't understand that. With all people are here today, they not only in part but wholeheartedly support what we're doing. And I believe the only one that's ever been on my property, to my knowledge, is Mr. Killian. People on the Commission, I've read all your bios. You have some credentials. To me, you should be the people that come out as a group. If the town of Lincoln's planning department come out, they would come out as a group of people and look at the situation, not a complaint from the neighbor. It's like this neighbor that's complained has had the Commission on a leash and been leading them around trying to run me off my property. I've used this property since 1965 myself. Bought it off a previous landowner, friend of the family. There's no reason I shouldn't be able to continue. The support we have from the local community, the town of Lincoln has been supportive. I've been restoring my property, which is right in line with any Niagara Escarpment's plan. For some reason, people have chosen to ignore that. The so-called commercial activity on my property, I have a small room with a pegboard on it, a few items hanging on the wall for sale. In partnerships with the Ministry of Natural Resources 3 times now. We've had a turkey check station, a weigh station. We collected the deer skulls for sampling of the population for chronic wasting disease. Now I've entered into an agreement with Land Care Niagara. We've planted 3,300 native species trees on our property. And I didn't know until recently that part of that was funded by the Ministry of Natural Resources. The only thing I'm guilty of is not knowing the process. When I went to the first Commission meeting, I went like a lamb to the slaughter, unprepared. I have a list of supporters many institutions, people from the Niagara Peninsula, politicians, government employees. There's a list goes on and on, but they just seem to fall on deaf ears. I have found one thing I'd like to thank the Commission for. The Commission has forced me to get an education, to educate myself, become aware of the process. And as I got involved in that, I was forced to join a grassroots organization. Many of the members are here today. We started in Niagara, we've started the Niagara Landowners Association. It's another chapter of the Ontario Landowners Association. But basically, our core issue is property rights. And if you see these faces here today, you're going to see these faces over and over and over again every time there's an injustice against somebody's property. On all the Niagara Escarpment's literature, their road signs, and their website, they boast about the world biosphere that this Niagara Escarpment is. Well, if it truly is, you people are the ones with the credentials. How come you don't come out on site and look at these issues? You have a planner that comes out on site. Martin's a very good planner, but I don't think he's qualified to make every decision on there. Our Town of Lincoln Planning Department is more than qualified to do that, and they send a team of people out to assess the situation. I worked for Lafarge Corporation for 29 years, and there was something that we discussed there. You cannot run a business from 50 miles or 100 miles away. You have to go out there. If you don't, a cancer starts, and the intricate details will just kill you. Mr. Killing was warned back in December that this issue was a neighborhood disagreement, not a land use violation. It was a neighborhood disagreement, and that it would blow up in his face. And this testifies to that today. With the support that I have here, I believe that our operation is a perfect fit along the Niagara Escarpment. Anybody that's involved in the shooting sports is a conservationist. And that's just not the property, that's the wildlife, the plants, the trees. That all works to our advantage. And that is directly, when I read the Niagara Escarpment plan, the mandate, that's the way I understand it. So I'm asking you here today to reconsider this. This is a just facility that we have. Does not need to grow any bigger. And I'm 54 years old. I don't need to take on any more work. I want to restore that property and keep it as it is. Thanks very much.
Sir, page 18 of this report, A10, it talks about it's got four things on it. The addition to the existing single dwelling, plus the use of an additional area within that dwelling as an archery retail store. Second point, placement of one-story portable building for archery activities. That's page 18. Use of outdoor areas for the property for archery range parking and archery-related activities. Placement of advertising sign. Are there any of those 4 or 5 things that you feel you could eliminate eventually? And if so, would they help to address neighbor concern?
Yes, there's been several things we've changed since this began. I mean, it's a growing, the business has made a kind of a metamorphosis, if we want to use that word, but it's become more of a community service than it is. In the beginning, when I started, the small retail business supplied me with an income. I started part-time. Now this is my livelihood. I'm retired. Retired after just after I had heart surgery, so I have to be at home to do this. There is some stuff outdoors that we could make if I'm allowed to finish what I've started. There's a few loose ends. The neighbors would be very comfortable. But you must understand that the original complaint from the neighbors was that they liked the view across my property. Well, it's my property. They bought their home for retirement, and so did I. But they bought their home to enjoy my property.
Mr. Chairman, just to conclude that, would this be to do with some of the outdoor activity that you're thinking of modifying, or?
Well, the outdoor activity, I did that in the beginning. I planted those trees, so we don't use that area anymore. I want those trees to get a good start, so we don't go out in that part of the property anymore. But the building, portable building, didn't have a permit. I've done the groundwork to require the permit from the town of Lincoln. I know exactly what I have to do. If the commission give me the rubber stamp or whatever's done there, I can run right down to the town of Lincoln and make everything, rectify everything. The outdoor activity that I want to pursue is going to be all contained. We put in a couple lanes for Olympic archery. That's why I put that letter into the Canadian Olympic Committee. I got a reply back from Stephen Harper's office. The service for the community and the programs that we have with brain injury, community reentry, the high schools, the Beavers, and this list goes on and on, the healthcare workers from Albright Manor. The income from that, or the spin-off from that in my retail store, that'll put groceries on my table. The evidence that come out at the, or speculation or can't think of the right word, but there was some mention of stray arrows. Well, it's a firearms discharge area. There's hunters all through there. Those arrows came from anywhere, and they were alleged. Our activities are all self-contained. The town of Lincoln, one of their requests was that we have adequate backstops behind all the targets. Well, we've done that now. Even the 3D competition where you shoot at urethane animals, there's we have, when we put those out in the spring, we have backstops behind all of them. Anybody that uses rents our equipment, they're not allowed outside. It all has to be self-contained in the building. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Mr. Ferguson, you had a question?
Two questions. First of all, I noticed in the staff report that it's operated for 3 years, but I noticed in Mr. Hudak's letter you've been in business since 2002.
Yes,
Have you been 5 years or 2 years in business?
5 years.
As a full-fledged archery operation?
Yes, the indoor, the building that's in question, the single-story classroom was an addition, and that's what spurred the complaint. We had outdoor activities only before that. My neighbors had full run of my property. They walked their dog there. They brought their kids and their grandkids on my property. Their grandkids used to come over and say, "Mr. Mackie, can we go and walk the course and look at the artificial animals?" And they did. And there was never an issue, never a problem. They never mentioned any stray arrows. And when that building was dropped on site, then all this stuff started. And then there's stray arrows, there's this and that, and they're just reaching and clutching and trying to pull all this stuff in.
And does your archery business run through a membership, or do you pay as you play? Or play as you shoot?
Pay as you play now. We tried a small membership, but it's not going to run like any other club because I own everything. So pay and play, that's the way people like to do things now. The way society's moving is fast paced. Memberships, that could be, it could be a problem. But we have to have a core membership to be insured.
Okay, where I'm trying to go with this is how many people are showing up? How many people are using the facility? I suspect your busy days are Saturday and Sunday?
Saturdays, I'm closed Sundays.
Closed Sunday, okay.
Closed Sundays.
How many people would you have in on a typical Saturday?
Saturday, this time of year,
Anytime, what's the busiest time of year? Is that now?
no. Busiest time of the year would be from January to March.
Okay, how many people?
probably over the weekend, maybe 70 kids. We had 70.
70?
We had 70 kids well, that was when we ran on Sunday then. There was 3 time slots on Sunday. We have a large Dutch community there, so we ran 1 time slot on Monday evening.
You say 70 kids, so it's not open up to the general public, it's just children? Or?
Not for those particular days.
I'm trying to get a feel for volume and traffic and whatnot. So
It's spotty. I mean, you really couldn't. Some days we might have 20 people up and down the road. Some days there might be 50 spread out over the whole day.
Mr. Chairman, I have some more questions for staff, but I think I'll save that for later.
One more question.
Does Lincoln have a firearms discharge bylaw or a bylaw that relates to?
Yes, and they've just revisited. I was assisted Greg Front from the Federation of Anglers and Hunters. They wanted to include Sunday gun hunting. Well, I'm outside the urban boundaries for firearms discharge, so you're allowed to discharge firearms on our property, guns and bows.
We have a couple more speakers on this application. Mr. McLaren, President of the Ontario.
My name is Jack McLaren. I'm president of the Ontario Landowners Association. We've come here today as the Ontario Landowners Association with members from across the province of Ontario to support Bob Mackie. I'd like to start, if you would bear with us, to show you who we are. So could I ask members of the Landowners Association who are here today and members of the community to please stand who are here to support Bob Mackie. Thank you, people. The Ontario Landowners Association supports Bob Mackie's archery training business on his 9-acre rural property. He provides a valuable archery training business for schools, Boy Scouts, Beavers, brain injured recovery program, brain injured people, archers in ministry, and many other folks. He has the support of his Member of Parliament, Dean Allison, Tim Hudak, his MPP, and Bill Hodgson, the Mayor of Lincoln, of the town of Lincoln. All of these people support Bob's archery training business, and they'll be deprived of the archery services that he provides if he is shut down and prevented from doing business, and the community will be at a loss. His business is very passive, and it's consistent with what I understand to be part of the objective of the Niagara Escarpment Commission, which is to look after natural heritage. He has planted thousands of trees on his property. Archery is a pretty passive program. There's no noise, no dust, no pollution. It doesn't get much quieter than that. He's operating a very safe and monitored business, offering a very needed service in the community. In short, it's a very environmentally friendly business. If he were to stop that and use his property, say, for agriculture, it would be intensive agriculture, because that's the only kind of agriculture that can be practiced today with the hope of a profit. That would mean the trees would be cut down, large machinery would go across his property with noise and dust associated with conventional or normal farm practice, which the law provides that he would be allowed to do. There would be fertilizers, there would be pesticides, and there would be the smells and noises. That would not be the best use of Bob Mackie's property. What he does today is. The argument that the car traffic attracted by his business is a problem is invalid. You've heard him say sporadic numbers of people come on the weekend, and through the week less cars that would park on the road. And as parked cars, they're not very noisy and don't cause much interruption. There's a very small number of them. On Bob's Road, there's heavy dump truck traffic going up and down the road to service local farms, hauling soil to fill on land, I believe, as you told me, Bob. And these loaded trucks are hard on the road, and Bob tells me the road is severely damaged by this truck traffic, not to mention the noise and the dust of heavy trucks going down the road. Yet we hear no complaints about truck traffic, only parked cars. The argument that Bob's archery business must stop because he does not have the necessary business and building permits is invalid. The town of Lincoln has assured Bob Mackie that they will issue him all the permits that he is required to have by law as soon as the Niagara Escarpment Commission passes his application and is approved here. So this is the only stopping block to that. The Niagara Escarpment Commission is effectively trying to take away Bob Mackie's property rights. This is wrong. The founding principle of the Ontario Landowners Association is that a landowner has the right to use, enjoy, and profit from his property. At the Landowners Association, we say, we do what is right. Today, the right thing to do would be to support Bob Mackie. Thank you.
My recollection of Zimmerman Road is that there's a sign at the entrance that says no exit, is that correct?
No exit sign on your road?
Yes.
Yes.
Those trucks you were referring to, where are they going? It's a dead end.
They're filling neighboring property. There's a development going on in the town of Lincoln now, and there's been several thousands and thousands of tons of clay brought into. There's a farmer that's expanding his agricultural activity, which is allowed. I have no problem with that. He has bulldozed down all the mature trees on this one area, and he's put 4 feet of fill in there in the one area. The other neighbors, there's heavy trucks come down to bring paper, mulch, and different materials to fill. The grape growers, they fill in low areas so their property drains properly.
And are you indicating that this is happening all the time?
There's trucks down there. There's been trucks down there all summer long. This development is still going on. There's heavy truck traffic that comes up over the hill. There's a neighbor that has heavy agricultural equipment that goes up and down the road. Zimmerman Road is excuse me, originally was a driveway for the Zimmerman farm, which was the property at the end of the road. The original barn's still there. And I worked in that field for 29 years. That Zimmerman Road is not much more than a cart path. And they would have been better off just to leave it as gravel and grade it once a week. They put a thin layer of asphalt on it, and the heavy truck traffic fractures that, and then the element just destroys it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have this.
Cleared a number of trees.
Commissioner Shears, you continue to present your comments about the local municipality interesting me, because I was actually searching for where they stood on the issue. Pretty clear where the MPPs are coming from. You mentioned that the mayor of Lincoln supports application, and that the town of Lincoln would prepare the necessary permits once they get the development approval. Is there a council resolution supporting this operation?
I don't know. Do you know, Bob?
Well, there was originally a letter sent when we put our application forward. There was a letter sent from the town of Lincoln saying that they were aware of our archery business and had no objection to it, provided there was some conditions in there. Very easy for me to meet, but I haven't had the opportunity to do that. The conditions were to supply adequate backstops, get permits for the buildings, an engineer's stamp for the building, and to notify the town of Lincoln 2 months before any function or tournament. We had, at that time, we had 4 tournaments a year. Very easy to comply to that. We plan our whole season out, so we could give them a list of our yearly list, and that would be very easy. And then after that, I know I can't buy any permits until we have the approval from the commission. I contacted Phil Etherington at the Town of Lincoln Planning Department, and I know exactly what I have to do. And I asked him, once this is settled, what do I need to get this rectified?
Okay, because, yeah, I'm sure the building permit, the engineering stuff will go its normal route, but I'm more concerned about the divided community on this issue and the mood of the community, and the best way to measure that is through a council resolution to represent our closest to the people. That's why you mentioned the mayor supported it, but I wonder where council went on it, who are elected by all the neighbors. If they take a position in support of the application, putting aside the building applications and the engineering component, it's the political read I'm looking for. So it sounds like you don't have a resolution from your...
We have the mayor speak. Mayor's right here.
Mayor's here.
Mayor's here.
Yeah. to answer your question, I don't believe there has ever been a resolution passed, but of course, you know, the involvement of the municipality in all matters to do with NEC is really a staff response using a hypothetical situation. And in this case, it was the staff comments essentially said we would have, you know, we see the consistency with conservation and environmental objectives, and it's not listed as a use in the agricultural area, but that there's a lot of, I think all of us know times change, so we try to have, there's a certain flexibility that would be there. With respect to council resolution, you know, the municipality respects the authorities where they lie, and we don't actually pursue, you know, business that's not our business, and I think that's only to be respectful of the commission's work, and this would be true with other levels of government and so forth. We get asked to give opinions about all kinds of things, and essentially government should stick making opinions and decisions with respect to your decision.
Planning Act, and you have to have staff approvals, and you have to have recommendations of staff, but Mr. Mayor, is this the right thing for the community?
A community, and quite simply, I didn't know if I'd be asked to make a comment. And the first thing I'd like to say is that when you're the mayor, you're everybody's mayor. And I'm speaking as the mayor, I'm not speaking as the council. The council won't deal with it until it becomes council business. But as the mayor, once again, I respect the views, and Bob and I have had the opportunity to discuss that. I'm not here to actually speak on behalf of individual interests. I can make a comment about community interest. Small communities across Ontario are always strapped to provide a full menu of activities and resources. And quite simply, this is recognized and valued by lots of people. I've had the opportunity just this week to talk to our MP and MPP, and we haven't done a scientific poll. We don't do that. It's called an election, and I guess that's how that happens. But quite simply, the support in the community is very broad for this activity. And I would, I guess, say to you that in terms of there's an appearances issue here. I understand some of the technical issues that you have referred to and have appeared to be a barrier here. However, from the community interest point of view, if this is the service that is provided through Mackie's archery is important, and so he works with the high school, so he works with special needs children and adults. You know, these are things that a small community cannot provide. So these needs are being met, and I guess I would ask, you know, the commission to remember too, the town of Lincoln, in assessing the greenbelt, the main determination that council made is that we may have individually or as a group have some issues with the plan and some of the regulations, some of the implications for private landowners. What we do recognize is it has some permanence, and that permanence has led the council to identify the creation of a vision for our community as a greenbelt community. And we're working hard to do that, to achieve success, to have a sustainable community in the future that recognizes those broad objectives that you all share with the greenbelt, this NEC lands being part of the greenbelt. We require the community to take some ownership and pride in that future. And I really do believe that if we, in a case like this, do not see a way or find a way to recognize the community interest and to recognize the very close alignment of this activity with our broader understanding of protection and environmental and conservation objectives. That actually undermines our ability as a community then to try to ask our residents to take ownership of that vision.
Okay, long answer. I want yes or no. From your perspective, is this archery business the right thing for your community?
Yes, and I believe that I think Mr. Mackie has outlined the communications that he's see quite accurately from the town staff.
Okay.
And
Thanks a lot, Bill.
Okay.
All right, we have a couple more questions of Mr. McLaren.
McLaren?
Yeah. Mr. Elgar. and
No,
then Mr.
actually,
Boyle.
mine would be of the mayor also.
No, the mayor's not, the mayor's done a very good job of answering the non-question. So,
My question would be then, if Mr. Mayor, it would be, are you aware, is there zoning in place now that would allow archery to take place in Lincoln?
I'll have to consult an advisor.
I can very quickly, and I will give you a very quick answer. The town of Lincoln does not zone NEC lands.
I didn't ask that,
Yeah.
sorry.
Sorry.
My question was, is there anywhere in Lincoln where archery would be allowed as a commercial operation?
The staff gave the opinion with respect to this one, and again, in the hypothetical, that if we had these lands zoned for agriculture and for conservation, this would be an appropriate use.
Okay, I guess.
I think the answer is no.
There's no commercial zoning that would allow that.
It would have to be done by a zoning exemption.
Excuse me, may I ask a question?
No.
You're into zoning. The Niagara Escarpment here on its website says that it's to protect the natural heritage.
Yeah.
Is the Niagara Escarpment protecting the natural heritage, or are you enforcing zoning?
We're not doing, we don't have zoning in.
Then why is zoning brought up?
The question, we won't go very long with it. The question was asked, outside of the NEC area, is there any other areas that allows archery? And I don't think there is, but that's not saying it couldn't happen. Anyway, Mr. Boyle, you have a question?
This is probably a question for Mr. Mackie.
Okay, Mr. Mackie, you're
Yes.
the guy.
I guess in our deliberations on this issue, we see one thing that's perfectly clear, and that was reiterated again by the mayor, that this is the right business for the community. There's a demand for this business and all that, we just have a problem with location. Is there, we heard that there's no place in the town for this business other than where it's located. I'm getting that impression right now, but is there within the system, in the community, is there a recreation committee or is there an economic development commission that you have been able to work with to take your success and build on that? You've already said you've kind of hit a brick wall, maybe not exactly with this commission, but even with the parking situation. You can only expand so far on the property that you're at.
Right.
Judging from what I've heard in these many months, it seems like your business is excellent, there's no doubt about it. We look at the big picture from here to Tobermory and we say, how would this fit into our various communities? I would take it to a community committee and say, there's an economic development point of view, there's this aspect of it, from a recreational and cultural point of view, there's this aspect of it. Now, how does it work in the community? Is there anything in Lincoln that would give you this vehicle besides you have a good group of people here? Maybe there's another group of people out there that really would be able to come up with a suitable location, maybe outside of the town of Lincoln or within a close proximity to where you are, to expand upon what you want to do in terms of business plan or anything like that.
Well, it wasn't my goal to expand any further than I have now. Very, very unique, the situation that we have. I don't believe, to my knowledge, that there is another one that operates the same way we do, where we supply training and instruction for all facets of archery, right from the hunting right through to the Olympic end of it. The retail part of it, sure. The retail store, you could open up a retail store in any strip mall. Now, the retail part of the business is necessary for me to supply myself with an income. Property is karst topography, so it's unusable for agriculture, so I have to find a way to supply myself with an income, and I thought this was a very unique way to do that. With the indoor archery, the outdoor archery, in a residential area or even a commercial area, it would be very hard to police. You'd be plagued with vandalism, loitering. There was an article, I believe, I don't know if I forwarded it off to the commission or not from North York. They have a public archery range in North York. And the article said that their property was, vandals took aim on a public archery range, and it was destroyed. They went in and trashed it all one night. On a dead-end road, that's not going to happen. In another area, the cost would be to operate would be too expensive. To operate this in a strip mall, you just couldn't do it. There's just not that much money in it.
Okay, so from an economic, from a political point of view, then, in terms of where you're located, you've never sought any economic development assistance or recreational committee type assistance or anything?
No, the only thing that I know of, I haven't pursued it yet. I'm just not, like I say, this. I've been forced to become educated and politically active. Before that, I just didn't know. Apparently, if we have some Olympic archers practice there, and one or two, and I may be wrong in this, but from what I understand, then there'd be some funding available for these Olympic archers that can compete internationally. Right now, we have national champions, provincial champions, and just local champions that we've trained and use our facility. So hopefully.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is, so if you were forced to relocate, you would then be starting from scratch. You have not made any outreach type to the larger economic development. That's all.
No, that would be the end of it. If I was forced to relocate, that would be the end of it.
Okay, so your business is specific to this particular location, and that's it?
That's it.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
Could be right. Thank you, Mr. McLaren.
Key person that if you had a few minutes to hear from, I think you'd find very interesting and beneficial and might have an influence on your decision. That is Dave Horton from the Brain Injured Group.
Well, he's on the list to speak very briefly. We have time.
He's right here.
Time is going by fairly quickly here. From Tim Budak's office. Is he here?
Good afternoon. I actually wasn't sure that I was going to speak this afternoon, but I guess if you're giving me the floor, I will. Just further to the letter that I believe you all received from Tim Hudak, I'd just like to say that working in our constituency office in Beamsville in the town of Lincoln, we have received numerous letters, emails, phone calls in support of Mackie's Mountain Archery. There's been some questions about, is it a valued community service? And from our perspective, it is most definitely. We've had just a resounding amount of support. And so that's it. If there's any questions. Yeah, page 16 in the package is the letter.
Okay, yes, we've got Tim's letter. These are all letters of support. Did you get anything in opposition?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, that's good. Very seldom that happens. Commissioner Alexander, do you have a question?
Well, I was asking about the weight of letters, and you suggested the correspondence you've had in support of Mr. Mackie. In our package, we have a couple of letters that had questions about the operation, and I wondered if you would comment on those. There's a letter particularly of an archery operator in Port Colborne who describes his operation in correspondence of, it's received here February the 5th. And then there's a letter questioning, or at least supporting the Escarpment Commission and its regulations from Mr. and Mrs. Zuzek, dated March the 2nd, with those pieces of correspondence. So I was wondering, yes, there were some ones that were concerned, and I wondered if you had any comment about that.
No, I'm sorry, I can't speak to that. I haven't actually personally seen that letter, but I suppose there's at least one out there that have contacted us.
Okay, thanks very much. We have Mr. Horton.
And I am the recreation coordinator for a company called Brain Injury Community Reentry. We service clients with acquired brain injuries in the Niagara region. I've been at the company 10 years and I've been the coordinator for 7. In the program, it has allowed a variety of our clients to participate, both male and female, ambulatory, and wheelchair bound. There are many positives points to reference about Mackie's, and the most important is the facility is wheelchair accessible. This removes one of the biggest barriers that our clients face today. Archery is not a common activity, but our clients have had the opportunity to take part in it, and they're doing so in a safe environment with proper instruction, and they feel very comfortable doing so. Other positive points that our agency has about Mackie's is that archery assists with their concentration skills, assists with hand-eye coordination, and also arm strength. Archery assists with their balance, their patience, and improves their social skills. Archery is very rewarding to our clients, and it gives them an idea of their goal attainment because they can see themselves improving every time they go out there. All the equipment is provided by Mackie's with little or no fee if our clients cannot afford it. And as you know, if you're on ODSP, you're very limited to your income. So this is our agency saying, please consider keeping Mackie's open at its location as our clients benefit greatly from it. Thank you.
I was going to say, start out different, but from the comments I've heard, I wouldn't have been here, the landowners would not have been here, had not two people that object to Bob's archery school called me up and made statements that I couldn't believe. I went and investigated their claims and found out they were highly inaccurate. That is why I joined the landowners. But this property of Mr. Mackie's has been attached to the Zimmerman estate, which was one of the original Pennsylvania Germans that come up from New Jersey and Pennsylvania and settled the area 200 years ago. It was sold to Alan Packham, who was a World War II veteran. He served in Britain. His job was airport security, in other words, anti-aircraft. After the war, Alan bought the Zimmerman property and ran a dairy farm and custom work besides. And I believe when he quit shipping milk that he specialized in walnut and black cherry and maple veneer logs for the furniture industry all over the world. Those logs and treetops were all handled where Bob's archery school is now. That particular land is zone agriculture. The guy that looked at it and drawn it on the map must have been wacky, because there's no way you could grow crops on it because it's a karst formation. Now, I didn't know what that meant. I live 2 miles from Bob, and our country call them sinkholes. And you cannot plug a sinkhole up. You can spend a lot of money, put tons and tons of ground into it, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. Some morning you look up, they're gone. Where does it go? In the creek. In this case, it would be down the Congo Creek and into Lake Ontario. It's interesting that it was mentioned that there was a farmer about 100 yards, 200 yards from Bob that I just noticed this on the way in this morning, and bulldozed trees and stuff to make kind of a dike and brought topsoil in or waste from basements or something and building this up, and he will have a grapery there, and I have no problem with that, but I think it's under your jurisdiction. Have you ever looked at it? One more thing. I've got proof here that Mr. Packham operated his lumber business 30 years ago. This picture is of a tornado that went through the area on August 8th, 1977. The reason I know about it, it interrupted the funeral service for my mother. Pass that around. Alan Peckham cleaned all those bushes up and the treetops, and they all went through this property where Bob is now. Enough for that. The archery school. The town of Lincoln, 80% of the area is closed to use of firearms. I have 380 acres. I have 130 acres of the best deer habitat in the town of Lincoln. Last winter there was 150 deer at least wintered within 2 miles of my property. That's a lot of deer. So I can't say that they've done me a lot of damage. They do some, but nothing like the raccoon. However, when those deer get below the escarpment or on the bench or on the Vine Mountain Moraine, which is adjacent to Bob's farm, it's about, now I must tell you what the Vine Mountain Moraine is. The escarpment comes up like this. The earth just, and there's been stuff pushed up and shoved back, and that Vine Mountain Moraine is approximately 1 mile in depth, and with 30 feet or so of glacial till. Now where Bob is, and it's the same way all the way up, there's literally bedrock sticking up through, so it's no use for agriculture. Now, these deer, when you can't use firearms, how are you going to control them? There's only one way, and that's archery. And I would not let archers hunt on my 380 acres for the simple reason there's been too many deer wounded, and then you come and you have to go and get your rifle or your shotgun and go and put them out of their misery. So you're breaking the law, but it's humanitarian. Bob Mackie proved to me that it is possible to be as effective with a bow and arrow as it ever was with a shotgun. There's no question about it. And what we need to do is have these archers trained properly. The way it is now, you can go and buy a bow and arrow, go and buy your deer license, and go hunting. You cannot do that with firearms. You have to take a safety course. And that's what I think we need to do, and we need Bob's facility to have. Thank you very much.
I was just wondering, in relationship to Mr. Mackey's, where Mr. Schneck is located.
You said about 2 miles away.
That's what I thought.
Pardon?
You're about 2 miles away.
I'm 2 miles where the crow flies, yes.
Towards
I'm sorry. Any other questions?
Towards Beamsville or towards Grimsby?
You do so.
I am exactly north of Bob's.
South.
Then
South.
you'd be
South.
below the escarpment.
No, I'm above the, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm south. I'm south.
He's born in Toronto.
Interestingly, at Bob's, walnut trees grow profusely. You can't make a walnut tree grow on my property.
Thank you very much.
Refused the application earlier, and that was confirmed by a hearing officer. What latitude do we have in dealing with it? In my mind, all I can think of is we could possibly entertain an amended plan. But aside from that, aside from restoration, we have no latitude as far as my understanding of the Is that correct? And all of the information we've heard here today would be a justification for an amendment. It doesn't deal with what we've already done or with what the hearing officer said. So that's my only question. We don't have a lot of latitude.
Question of staff also. It was alluded to before, but never really talked about it, about the fact that there was a preceding commercial activity, namely logging and sawmill, on that site. If we had had definite evidence of that, would that have changed the staff report?
Based on what I know about that, it would not have changed the outcome of that permit. No, it would not have factored into the
land is, and clearly they, understand the act, it's a prohibited use, and that's what we set out with the staff report, but clearly we're hearing a different message from the community today, and I would say it's our job to try to find compromises. Any suggestion on how we can compromise?
I think it should be other than this recommendation. The barrier policies of the Niagara Escarpment Plan. To deal with that barrier, a Niagara Escarpment Plan amendment would be one avenue to explore. Problem is, pretty low batting average of success for those at the end of the day, and it's a long, drawn-out process. So I don't know what to say about that avenue. It's not something we sort of offer, sort of like candy to people. You know what I mean? It's there. It's Mr. Mackie knows that there is an amendment process that he could try, but he has chosen not to file anything.
For the benefit of the public, who is the deciding agency on an amendment?
I believe it's the minister or cabinet, depending on the process it takes.
So it's not this commission?
It's not this commission. The commission is a position-taking body.
You have a recommendation, a strong influence on it. The issue facing you today, the amendment thing really doesn't solve it, because you're looking, even the fastest amendment, given the need for consultation and interest groups and everything, it takes 1.5 to 2 years. What you have here is a development permit that failed. An independent hearing officer reviewed it, that failed, and now you're faced with, essentially under the regulations, is not a legal use. So I suppose your options are very limited. If you turn a blind eye to it, not knowing whether or not an amendment would ever be successful, you're sort of putting off the inevitable for 1.5 or 2 years. Normally when we deal with an amendment, the use isn't up and running. The problem with this one is that the use was up and running without municipal permits, et cetera, I won't get into it. Without your permit, we were told about it by neighbors, we went out and checked and said, you need a permit. So the problem, this is all backwards. I mean, most landowners apply in advance, they get their answer, if the archery use was approved, then the permits flow. But in this case, it's all backwards. You're now faced with a situation where you have an illegal use and...
Okay, so a simple thing like stopping the retail doesn't help.
No. Commissioner Reed?
A question for Mr. Mackie. Yes. We talked about the town of Lincoln. One of their recommendations was a backstop. Has that been installed?
Yes, well, we put the backstops we wanted to put behind the 3D targets that were shoot at outside. There is permanent backstop.
So the town of Lincoln one has been done already?
For the backstops, yes.
A
Okay.
motion, Mr. Chair, and the motion is that the restoration order be implemented and followed up. Because I don't want to be in this position. I don't think any of us sitting around here want to be in this position, but unfortunately, the use is not permitted in the plan. Our mandate is to uphold the plan. We can't choose to uphold some parts of the plan and not uphold it. We're caught in a catch-22, much as the neighbors, some neighbors may want it approved. We're not in a position of approving it because it's contrary to the plan. And as far as rights of individuals are concerned, you have to look at this property in context. It's wrapped around a couple of residential properties. And the owners of those residential properties were the ones who brought it to this commission, to say, this is a problem for us. It's an illegal use. What are you going to do about it? Well, we did go through the development control permit process. It failed. It went to a 2-day hearing, and the hearing officers, heard a lot more detail in 2 days than we hear in half an hour or 3/4 of an hour here. So we don't have any other choice than this. And as far as municipal requirements, the initial staff report said that use would not be permitted in the agricultural areas in Lincoln, and the region commented that it conflicted with their agricultural policy. So it wasn't seem as if we were just sort of picking something out of the air. I don't like to be in this position, but that's what we have to do. So that's my motion.
Second on the motion?
Second.
Commissioner Lee. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Get out your checkbooks and start to buy some property instead of stealing.